Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke, but I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
I've alluded and to it that after I lost my mother, I had a horrific dissociative episode over several days, going in and out of consciousness. It was a total release of what was on my unconscious. Did it scare the hell out of me? Did it scare the hell out of others? Yeah. Really scared the hell out of others. I felt it was warranted, but didn't know what was possible for the brain to do within C-PTSD and dissociation. So my writing about it is going to, I hope, spare others grief and incite joy. Joy remains, as joyous as I am, it remains my toughest emotion to face. And I could get into the whys, but not here. So I made a decision. I had separated from my family back in 2017 or 18, specifically my siblings, with some boundaries that, when you establish boundaries, you think they'll be honored. Well, that's not how it works. They're not appreciated, especially of the family scapegoat. I had always stood up for myself, but that didn't mean anything changed. So I just had enough cognitive therapy at the time to understand that was the decision I didn't have a choice any longer in not making. So I made it, paid a deep price, was caring for my mother, trying to have boundaries that were appropriate with my siblings, and it just, as you can well imagine, it was a clusterfuck. I handled it pretty well, and to my mother's credit, she handled it very well. And ended up meaning that she was abandoned by her own children, by her grandchildren, by her great-grandchildren. So there you go with the cycle of abuse and the multi-generations. It was heartbreaking. And I made efforts to separate the grands and great-grands from the siblings. And as you can well imagine, that didn't work out too well either. It's very hard for people to recognize a cycle, know they're part of it. It's just overwhelming and huge and sad. So anyway, after my incident, I had no desire to speak to anybody in my family. There's my mother was my world. And I had all the family I needed in my relationship with her. It didn't mean that I wasn't sad, but I had been told by one of my siblings that if I didn't behave and do certain things a couple years prior, that I was going to lose my nieces and nephews. And there was a lot of work, a lot of things done to not, it was at the point where I was like, okay, it just gets to a point where you just can't, you choose yourself. How about that? So, I had a very nice reconnection with someone from my family fairly recently. Sorry for all the, I don't mean to ever lie or not reveal, but I had a nice connection, and it made for me then seeking out the one sibling of 5 that I would consider having a little something with. And I'm still working on that, because the first conversation that we had was very nice. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it. But it taught me, which, Lucia spoke to it beautifully. You have some decisions to make when you choose to remain in the lives of people that not only can't face themselves and their own abuse, but they're not going to be there for you. And I didn't necessarily do it. It's so hard to explain. I had no expectations going in, but I ended up taking a day to process it and go through all the emotions. Once you learn the emotions, you can kind of go through process more quickly. That took years. But this person was not really interested in what had happened to me, which was okay. But as a result of not being really interested in happening to me, they got to have their own take on what happened to me, which is where it becomes unfortunate, because they just have really no clue. So I was immediately put myself in a position where, how do I want to come out of this? And I said, well, I really can't have a relationship with you if you're not interested in what happened to me. Our family sat on secrets, and I'm not interested in doing that with any kind of relationship that I put energy into. And this person was very quick to tell me that they felt bonded to me and that they loved me. And my brain just said, yeah, that's what our family did. They said, I love you, when they should have said, I'm sorry. So I didn't say that. I thought it, wrote it down later. But I came to find out that I told the joke 2 episodes ago about my sibling, different sibling, the joke when my mother was dying. And that particular person is somebody I just have no desire to talk to. But go forward to the conversation I'm having with you now. That person asked me if I had reached out to the other person since, essentially since our mother died. And I said, no. I said, why would I do that? And I then had to remind this sibling that they were the reason that the other sibling was able to even come to my home and see my mother, because that was something I was trying to avoid in the end. And I already explained all that. And then I heard it. Then I got it. This person said, but that's their mother. And I said, yeah, but I had separated from that person because of abuse. And I had offered to everybody months before she passed to come and say goodbye as she was deteriorating. If you would have told me what it's like for a person to be half dead, waiting for someone to get there and see them in the end, making it all about them, I just can't even tell you how fucking brutal that was. It was by far one of the most challenging things I've ever had to do, not only because the person wanted to die, my mother was consciously going out the door, but someone else waiting literally to the last minute and making them, the other person, prolong their journey selfishly. It was horrible. It was horrible. And again, me being me, I'm thinking all of this was very obvious because I'm bearing the brunt of all of it. But I wouldn't have not done that for my mother. I thought I was also doing it for the sibling, but yeah, I don't think they got it. So back to the conversation I was having, and I'm sorry I won't use gender and names. I know I slip up sometimes, and on a certain level I don't care. So, but that other sibling, I then started explaining that I had been dissociating since I was a child due to the rage in our family. I'm talking to a person that dissociates about dissociation. And I'm also trying not to judge them for not stepping on the path because they're much, much older. I would have expected them to have more of an interest in my safety, but that was never the case. So that was not my expectation in talking to them at this point. And I was really interested to learn that they didn't know, not in addition, feeling no obligation to ever keep me safe. They really didn't really want to know what I had come through. And this is a family that knew I had C-PTSD and knew, about me being diagnosed as autistic. I think part of the problem was when I get the autistic diagnosis was they didn't want it to be autism. They probably wanted it to be something else. They used to tell me all the time that I was depressed. The individual in particular that came back when my mother was dying. And I'd say, I'm not depressed. I'm autistic. It's different. This is hard, but I think it's important. So the way that I left it with, there's more to it. My brain's reminding me there was more to it. I learned just how dissociated this person was, not only from my upfront and frank requests, which I was always able to ask for what I want and say what I needed. I've heard so many men and women say, "Oh, in my next relationship, I'm going to be more clear about what I want and need," and I would always say, "That's not what it's about. It's the other person's capacity to hear you." So I was always that person that was able to say what I wanted and needed. I just very rarely was given what I needed, let alone wanted. And I didn't ask for much. So in this situation, I was basically asking my sibling to meet me where I was at, and I can forgive them for where they're at. But, then the toxic positivity started, and I am a very positive person. I'm a realist, but I'm a very positive person, and I hated that this person was perfectly capable of being in a relationship with me without having to give a shit about me. And then to learn, and this is hard, to learn that person is still interested in keeping in my kids' lives. And then I go, oof, well, if you're going to keep that interest, then I even more so want to back off. Because I can't have these multiple layers of falsehoods. It was heartbreaking. It was also heartbreaking to hear again how connected somebody feels to me when I don't understand why they do, because they haven't shown real interest. It's that codependency interest. Ugh. And then also not to have, I don't feel the same way. I don't feel the bond. I don't feel the love. I love that person like I love the world, but I don't like them. So I hope this helps. I hope between what, I always want to say Lucia, so I have it written phonetically on my pad, Lucia. I hope between what she's explained and what I just explained just really helps people makes decisions about those of us that are challenged in relationships for good reason. I get tired of hearing about how INFJs and autistics have problems in relationships. I'm always going, yeah, well, I don't look at it that way. I look at it that I have very healthy relationships, but I didn't grow up with them. I didn't marry them. So I'm sort of coming way from behind. Doing the best I can. I mean, I would love to think I have one great love left in me romantically. And if I don't, I don't. But, I'm very capable of close connection, very capable of many things that between my family experience, my marriage experience. My marriage experience was very fucking long. It's something that I have to still forgive myself for. I mentioned in my talk with Lucia how one of my children had a lot of insight very young, and that same child started to comment to me, 6, 7 years old. He started to point things out to me that if he hadn't, I wouldn't, I don't know if I would have gotten it yet. He just saw, and I feel that these young souls are delivered. They claircognizant. I would say both my boys are. I don't know if they know or care. But it was really a blessing to have had somebody who loved and cared about me be able to say what I needed at the time so then I could get on my own path. And then, my journey took a long, long time because I thought once I had the information and once I knew what was going on, then I could handle the relationship better. And I couldn't have been more wrong. When my ex got a diagnosis in 2007, I thought, oh, now I can do this. Couldn't have been more wrong. So that's what I hope to do for you folks is I do not think women have had more trauma than men. I do not think men polarize us more. We both share a role in that, and I just want to harmonize our energies and make us enjoy one another again. There's just too much strife. Yeah. What'd you think of that?
That's pretty good. How do you do that then? How do you harmonize the men and women?
We look at ourselves first, and we figure out what it is. I'm not going to say communication because I think
it's got to be a two-way street, right?
Yeah. But it's also, it should be, there should be a soul element. There should be a nonverbal element. There should be an ease when you've looked at yourself and you I know now, for me, as a person, let me make it personal because I can't speak for somebody else. I know for me, my divine masculine energy has dominated and had to. So for me, it's about, and I don't say soft because of divine feminine. I could say I could soften in divine masculine energy. It goes back to anima and animus. Carl Jung. There, I got him in. So for me, it's just relating more to my feminine energy. And I think for me, I think it's important to protect a man emotionally, guard his heart, and then that's what makes me feel safe and allows him to make me feel safe and want to make me feel safe. And I have not led a safe life. You know, I attracted as a result of, so just softening into my energy of being divine feminine. Natural born redhead is more masculine. It just is. My comedic style is very masculine. And I do that because, quite frankly, comedy pisses me off. It fucking gets me fired up.
But it helps.
Well, it helps. It's going to help me bring that Magdalene energy and the projects I want to do with the Magdalene character. But I've got to be able to have the venue to and then that sapiosexual dominatrix is gonna beat hopefully more boys than women up. I bet for a side. That'll help soften the energies and make people process things faster. I think this stuff that we all have to process has to be processed, and then we can let go, and then we can be in the now, and then we can, do what we need to do for ourselves and to be able to relate to another person. I also really want somebody multidimensional and know what that means.
Explain that, yeah.
AI knows what it means.
Well, AI is not people. What's a multidimensional person?
Did you ever read about the dimensions?
No, I haven't. So that's why. That's kind of why I'm asking, just in case anybody hasn't.
I know. 3D is the human experience.
Right.
Some people call it the Matrix. I am embarrassed to say that I have not seen the Matrix, so I don't even know what an analogy would be.
But when you say that, I get it now.
Oh.
Now I understand what you mean by 3D, at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the fourth dimension is sort of, I experienced that when I lost my mother. The out of body aspect of not needing a body and being a soul.
Okay.
And then the fifth dimension is it's more perspective. Perspective on we're all connected, everything we experience, kind of like when I read from Gabby. That's the fifth dimension, which she's describing inadvertently, but she was born there, so she doesn't know from the third dimension. Make sense?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. Hey, I'm learning this as we go too. Well, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are as well in the same boat as I am.
The reason I'm hedging.
So I'm trying to be that person. Don't hedge. Educate me.
Well, I'm in finance. I always fucking hedge. Hedge this, hedge that.
Okay.
I just don't want, as much as I want people on their path, I want people to do their own research and see what resonates. When I read about the dimensions, I've read, it doesn't fucking matter, but I'm having a meeting with somebody this upcoming week, and I'll share it on the podcast next Thursday. I didn't expect to do it, but now that you got me here, I will. See, you do influence me.
Well, I'm trying.
Pisses me off.
I'm trying to listen here. I have to be the audience, right?
Yeah, because
the audience of one.
That autistic island I live on just, needs a visitor once in a while.
Sometimes,
Yeah, so I'm talking with a woman that I actually met. I didn't talk to her. We corresponded on the Gabby Zoom call. She just was talking and making my brain go ring-a-ding with how she thinks and processes. And I reached out and asked if she had a professional practice, and we have a session next Tuesday. And she relates more to the sixth dimension.
which is
oh fuck.
Come on, you can't tell me and then just leave.
I just went right to sex. I'm like, of course I can.
Is that the sixth dimension?
No, but sex in the fifth dimension. Oh my God.
Okay. Well, what's the sixth dimension then?
You sort of have to, and it's not anything weird. You just have to resonate with it. And I would describe that that's where you can have out-of-body experiences, which I have had without knowing it, especially being claircognizant all my life.
Okay.
So is it still a perspective? Are you still in your body? Yeah, to a certain degree, but it speaks to making the unconscious conscious.
Okay.
And there's just a lot going on. And I think it's not nearly as uncommon as you might think. But it's also, I think it's the thing that you ask, and I've never done this because I've done the reading, and once it's nothing you read like 700 pages about. You read a little bit, and you go, oh yeah, I can fucking relate to that. Blah, 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 whatever. I think, and I might destroy this.
Well, everyone's going to have their own interpretation, so.
Well, you know my Jim Carrey fascination. Right. He said in an interview, and I could be, well, I'm going to try it. I'm in. That he rolls out of the sixth, seventh dimension to come down to the third, like coming into a shoebox.
Okay.
And I could really relate to that. I don't like the way you answered that. I thought it was going to help. Well, that doesn't fucking help. Yeah. Yeah, and it's a perspective. It's where you resonate. It's what you think about. It's what you want for others. It's about, it's nothing like meant to make you better than anybody, or And I don't remember the guy who I quoted last week, Mark, whatever the fuck.
It's somewhere. Go look it up.
It's not that I have to be like that all the time.
Uh-huh.
You still have, your human experiences. But what's happened to me, the more I turn into self and into my soul and all this stuff, is I just find myself more and more in situations where I just no longer belong. Doesn't mean that I don't respect where people are at. I just know that my job in this incarnation is to get to a point where I set myself up for more. My mind always goes to analogies. It's like I said, I got my mother to forgive her kids before she died. I did not get her to forgive herself. So she, whatever her next experience will be, she got the lessons. So I figure, like, this time around, I've got the lessons. I am not where this woman's at. Uh-huh. I could have been. I got derailed. She's 25. I'm 56. The daggers were coming for me when I was that age. And I'm not envious or jealous. I'm very grateful this woman's on the planet. But it's just, I want to be there so that the next time around I'm at a place where I can do the greatest good and create it's not about being better than anybody. It's about maximizing your own experience and being, another thing Carrie has said, and I'm always going to butcher this stuff.
As long as you get it close, it's fine.
And I couldn't tell you when or where. I mean, because after I had that experience with the painting and he stood out, I started to listen to him in interviews. It wasn't like I was watching Dumb and Dumber. So he says he's... fuck. He's not body experiencing a soul. He's a soul experiencing a body.
Okay.
Pretty sure that's it.
Close enough.
I hope it's right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's still true. I
Right.
mean, I could have said it 75 years ago. But yeah, I mean, I have tried to really look at life. That's why it's so ironic to me to have these little bits of sabotage that I do. That is such a 3D experience where I'm choosing fear over love. And that a lot of people have said, you either choose fear or love. And I inevitably will choose fear because that's what I can relate to. So when I'm, I'll make a silly example, but when I want to shove something down my throat, it's just, yeah, whoa, wow. It's kind of an interesting choice of words. Sorry.
Again, all open to interpretation, I guess.
Yeah. That would be choosing love and That's funny. That's funny. We're having a good time in here. Yeah, when I just want to eat the wrong food and the wrong food for me means, sugar, caffeine, meat, those are lower vibrational things. I'm trying to understand frequency. Gabby talked about frequency on the Zoom call, the frequency of the earth versus 732. And I went and I see what resonates for me. When I listen to the 432 hertz, I have a noise in my head. It's not tinnitus. It came out of, let me not go there right now, but I have this sound in my head that, yeah, the song Dust in the Wind?
Sure.
Okay, when the violins go really high? Mm-hmm. That is the sound in my head.
Okay.
But it's not like disruptive. It's not like it makes me, it's just when those violins hit that, whatever hertz that is, the sound in my head flattens out.
Okay.
Like I'm not hearing it now talking to you because...
We're not listening to Dust in the Wind.
No, this is a pretty high frequency experience.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to make you understand the square root of 4761.
I'm going to go do that. We've already established that.
So I hope that helps, but I think, just read about it. Gabby has videos. She doesn't so much talk about, she doesn't have to. She doesn't talk about this stuff because she's already resonates. Her stuff is more along the line of connecting with your higher self. My higher self, I've always had a relationship with, but I wasn't dialed in and paying attention. I abandoned it because of the experience I had. I self-abandoned. But, I spend a lot of my experiences now are just where I'm guided and led. And it doesn't mean I don't hang out with people. I hang out with flawed people, and I'm consider myself flawed, and I don't overanalyze it. I'm not here to judge. When Lucia was mentioning all that family ridiculousness, mm-hmm. talking about one another and all that stuff. I mean, that's the way I grew up, and
I'm sure everybody can relate to that in some aspect.
But that's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
Bingo, you said it.
Yeah.
I mean, just why? Why is that?
Yeah.
That's why can't we just gravitate to what resonates? I don't have a desire to. Talking about my sibling prior to this was very hard. But if I don't talk about it, then I can't help others. It's just like the book. Am I going to say things about my siblings and my ex-husband? Yeah. But I'm not saying it to put them in pain. I'm saying it to take somebody else out of pain. maybe even the person who did those things, because they're so far gone that their abusers are dissociated too. They're dissociated from the abuse they cause. So, whatever. I really, this helps. I hope it resonates with those it's supposed to. I say it, Gabby says it, whatever resonates. I try not to make too many suggestions because I'm on my own path, but, she's a standout. She's a standout from it just, and my standouts are things, why does she stand out with me? She's claircognizant. Why does Jim Carrey resonate with me? Because of the spiritual awakening experiences I've had. Why does Carl Jung resonate? Because, he's already told us all the shit we've got to find out again. I don't know. So, those people those beings are there for all of us. It's just energy. You got to find your energy. And then if you find your own energy, then the energy with the divine feminine, masculine, bing, 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 sort of falls into place. That was a long answer. You ready to go home?
That was great.
Thank you, Brian.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.